Here we are on the DCC Excursion Digital Calibration Request and Digital Calibration Answer. A process review of the calibration shows that the customer places a calibration request to the calibration laboratory. In this calculation request, it is specified which calibration requirements the customer has. Calibration requests can vary greatly even for the same calibration material. This is because they are used in different areas. Therefore, it often happens that different standards or special requirements are used for the same calibration material. The analog paper is now called calibration request. In the DCC sense, it is consequently a digital calibration request, DCR. At this point, I would like to refer to presentations in the industry session. Just look here for example, where colleagues from the pharmaceutical industry or process industry have already demonstrated such approaches. The semantics of DCC contains elements that can be applied in the whole field of metrology. A more detailed analysis shows that these semantics should also be usefully applied at the DCR as well. In addition to the old familiars for entering the country code or the language, we will encounter many other elements again, which we know from administrative data. For example, how to describe persons or represent addresses. The use of the items element clearly shows that transmission errors can be avoided. It becomes interesting if the calibration task itself is concerned. Here the semantics of DSI and the elements of measurement results are used. Thus, the calibration task can be described exactly. Again, using visualization feature of Ultra XML SPI, I will show what a DCR application example might look like. Here we see the root element digital calibration request. Now we move to the plus symbol and open the element. Once the element administrative data appears, which we already got to know in a similar form at DCC. But here the element is structured differently. We can see it when we click on the plus symbol. Here the element opens which we see in the child elements. Some of these child elements has already known descriptions from the DCC world, but some have completely new descriptions. The element software used is the first element we look at. I click on the plus symbol and get exactly the structure we know from the element DCC software or the element used software from DCC. Then I open the element laboratory and find out that the elements from the DCC area have been used here as well. Now I can take this further and show here what the other elements looks like. Controller has a similar with responsible persons, and customer as well as billing address are also familiar to us from the DCC. The reference number in the element billing reference is still transmitted in the DCR, has the same structure as the element unique identifier in the DCC. Thus, the element administrative data of the DCR is finished. We look now at the element task, in which, as the word already says, the calibration job is displayed. By clicking on the plus symbol, we again see a very similar structure as well as we know from the DCC. Now I want to talk about the bottom child element of the task element. The element measuring points, which is used to transmit the ordered measuring points, is structured in the same way as the element results. in the DCC. Here we see the big chance that there will be no more mix-ups due to the transmission of measuring order. The advantage is obvious. The data structure is identical. In the main lecture, I had presented to you the essential elements of DCC. The element comments was also examined in detail. In this area, it is possible to store information that is not directly related to calibration and thus not listed in the ISO EEC 70025. In the main lecture, I had mentioned as an example the addition of an invoice about the calibration. This is where the concept of the digital calibration answer starts. How such a thing could look like, I would like to explain again in a graphic representation. Now let us have a look at the structure of the DCA. There is also a root element here. The name of the root element is Digital Calibration Answer. In this example, the DCA has only the element administrative data. By clicking on the plus symbol, the element opens and we see the child elements. Again, there's a reference to the software used. The element is followed by the element cover letter, which should contain the cover letter. The last child element is the element invoice, which, as the name suggests, contains the invoice for the calibration. By clicking on the plus symbol, we then see the structure known from the DCC scheme for the input of base 64 encountered files.